Hello, everyone. My name's Margaret Mary, and I am your Dragonfly Reiki Marketplace Reiki Master Practitioner for this healthcare medical Reiki Q&A session. We're here with Amanda McCordic, the founder of Dragonfly Reiki, who has created this incredible platform for Reiki practitioners and Reiki clients to literally come in from around the world. If you will put in the chat where you're coming in from, we very much appreciate that. I am currently in New Zealand. I'm here working a really complex medical Reiki case, and my client is going into the OR very shortly. So I will be on my broom and be out of here as soon as we're done. And this must be like the umpteenth time in the last 2 months. But this is the follow-up to yesterday's medical Reiki session. And we would like those of you that participated, if you are comfortable sharing what the experience was like for you, what was there for you, what your intention was that you created prior to the session. And after that sharing, then we'll go into answering any questions that may be there. But before we get started, if we can bring our hands together in Gasho, which is two hands coming together at the heart energy center. The left hand is Reiki releasing the past and anger. The right hand is Reiki releasing the future and worry. And in the space between your palms, Reiki, receive the activation of your Reiki. Bring your hands up to Reijiho, which is at the bridge of your nose, your third eye, and an indication that you are ready to join. Bring your hands back down to Gasho. These are the Reiki precepts in Japanese, followed by English. Keo Dakiwa. Ikuruna shinpa suna kancha shia gyo hagame hito ni shinsetsu ni. For today only. Anger not. Worry not. Be filled with gratitude. Devote yourself to your duties. Be kind. And now that we're fully activated, Reiki requests that our egos, identities, personalities are set aside for the greatest and highest good during this session, and that this be guided and channeled by Reiki, with Reiki, and through Reiki, and that we are all able to Reiki receive the communication that comes through. Reiki on. Aho. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret Mary. I just wanted to say, too, before we open up the floor, that if you didn't get an opportunity to be in the medical Reiki session yesterday and you didn't sign up for it, if you just put in the comments that you want the replay forwarded to you, I can get that done on the next. I'm pretty sure yesterday's went out. So, but in any event, if you'd like it and you didn't have it, please just put your name in the chat, and I'll make sure that gets out to you so you can enjoy it. And again, like all of these, they can be used over and over and over again. Yeah, I'll get into that, my experience with that later. But yeah, no problem, Kim. We'll get it over to you. Okay, so before we started recording, Norma was just about to share what her experience was like after yesterday's 2-hour medical Reiki session. And we stopped her so we could hit record. So now, Norma, why don't you go ahead and just let us know what you were going to share?
Well, I get a root canal done on the 11th, and I had gone to the dentist in November, and he put me on antibiotics because I had a terrible toothache at that time. It came back not quite 2 weeks ago, and so he put me on antibiotics again, but they had ended on Monday, and so on Saturday, it was like full blown throbbing when Margaret Mary started her share. So my intention was for it to work on the tooth. By late evening, the pain was gone. It was bothering me so much, I put in a call, and my dentist called me back and ordered a different kind of antibiotic to be on today. I have not had any pain since last evening, but I figure I still need the antibiotic between now and the 11th, just in case. But the pain's been all gone. So I thank Reiki for that, because that was all that was involved. There was no antibiotics there. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Norma. And that's a really good point. Reiki, and medical Reiki specifically, is complementary. So you're not to not take your antibiotics. You take them, and because you're a Reiki master, you hold your antibiotics in your hands and you give the antibiotics Reiki and you give yourself Reiki, and it really makes a big difference. Because the 11th is far enough away that between now and then, you don't need an abscess. Absolutely not.
I think that's such a great point that this stuff all goes together, right? So I
Correct.
remember right after my initial diagnosis, my initial terminal diagnosis, I had this moment of panic where I was like, do I pick the mainstream or do I go off and do, the holistic, marijuana and supplements and fasting, like, and my close friend who is an end of life doctor here actually called right in the middle of that spiral, and I said, like, I just don't know what to do. Like, mainstream medical is telling me they definitely can't save me. The naturopathic are saying maybe, and she's like, you asshole, why would you pick? Do both. And I often think about that, like, you asshole, why would you pick? Do both. And again, it goes back to, like, everybody plays a part, right? Some people absolutely came here to develop drugs that work. Some of us absolutely came here to be energy healers, and some came to make the tubing, to make the operations possible, and to mine the helium. And so we all play our parts. And I think that's absolutely right. I Reiki my medication. It's a huge part of my treatment plan is to Reiki my medication. I'm on a immunotherapy, which is really hard on the immune system. The immunotherapy I'm on, the name brand is Ibrance. People, I think, typically can only be on it about 16 months before the side effects become so bad that they just don't do it anymore. And I've been on it not 6 years, but probably 4 years. When I first started it, my hair started falling out very quickly, and it actually bothered me a lot that first summer, sudden summer of 2020. And I thought I was gonna. When I talked to the pharmacist, she actually said, Amanda, not everybody loses their hair, but if you're starting, like, it's not gonna stop, and so you should order a wig. And so I went, ordered a wig, cried the whole way home, and mentioned it to my Reiki lady at the time, Pam Allen LeBlanc, that I was very upset about losing my hair. And she kind of said, just off the cuff, like, well, just Reiki it. Just put Reiki in it, ask your medication not to have that side effect. And I was still fairly new to Reiki. That was like the first year. And I thought like, what bullshit? It's like, it's one thing to calm me down, but you're telling me that this energy is going to remove side effects. And to Pam's credit, she was always great at handling my skepticism. And so she's like, well, you don't have to believe it. You just have to be willing. So are you willing for it to happen? If so, ask. And so, I got up the next morning, put my pills between my hands, felt a little bit like a fool, if I'm honest, and was like, okay, if you could, like, work to your highest effect and have my hair not fall out, that would be great. My hair stopped falling out. I never needed the wig. My pharmacist is like, I've never seen this happen to someone. And when eventually I kind of had a period of time where there was no cancer and I went off all the drugs, my hair came back. that I had lost, and it came back curly. And so half of my hair is very, very straight, and the other half is I have a curly mullet in the back. And this time around, when I started the medication again, I started in August of 2024 on the medication. Um, I started raking it right away, and I never lost any hair. So, yeah, it works.
It really does, and that is a great example of how it is complementary. Um, so very well done. Thank you for sharing, Amanda. Does anybody else that had it participated yesterday, does anybody else want to share?
I have to go back and look at my notes, to be honest. Isn't that funny? So why don't we, if nobody else has anything else that they want to share, I know that I went really deep yesterday. I have been fighting a full body rash that is mysterious in nature. Um, so I can tell you that my rash didn't bother me last night. The night before that, it felt like carpet burn all over my body. It's been a pretty unpleasant um, little rash. And I know that it's my body communicating with me that my liver is having a hard time and I need to, give it more support. But I will say last night that I slept like a baby after a full day of lots of Reiki, including the medical Reiki. And yeah, the night before I literally had to sleep like this because I couldn't handle anything touching under my arm. And, it's, I can still barely see it and feel it a little bit, but it's a million times better. So I'll also say that Margaret Mary pretty regularly comes to the rescue in my household. So, besides my own medical issues and challenges, which is a terminal cancer diagnosis that I've had for just over 6 years now, I also am the mom of a 15-year-old who has complex medical needs that are mysterious in nature. So, I have seen what it's like to live with cancer, and nobody doubts that you have it. There's clear tests, there's support. Nobody thinks I'm lazy, nobody. So I know what that's like, but I've watched the path my daughter has walked down, which is an autoimmune issue. So she's got POTS, she's got mast cell activation syndrome, and we suspect endometriosis. And just a much more, I would say it's a much more difficult path than my cancer path has been, really. We are in the middle of a flare that we think was brought on by her getting braces. Any big change, her body just freaks out. And it's been Margaret Mary's medical Reiki that has brought the most relief to her. Now, she's 15 and, I don't know that she would admit that, but I play it continuously. I've been a lot of times leaving them, on loop all night long, not even necessarily in her room, in my office, which is right next to her room. We leave them on loop all night long. And I can say that this is, it sounds funny, but this is the most pleasant flare that we have had. So still challenges, still stuff to figure out, but this has been, we haven't even had to go to the ER this flare. So, yeah, that's huge.
Thank you for that, Amanda. And yes, I listen to recordings on loop as well. And then I put them on for my clients, especially in person, um, because it does make a difference. And it can be on low next to them or the next room. Or there are times I am participating in a Reiki circle and I'm guided to include them in the circle and using the distance symbol, forward it to them, sending to them, which are simple little things that, really sound kind of woo-woo to those outside the community. And it does work. It really does.
Yeah, and that's it. I always tell people I welcome the polite skeptics, right? In fact, I encourage you to be skeptical about anything. There's nothing wrong with being skeptical. I know a lot of us were taught growing up that we needed blind faith and that it was a sin to question. Um, that's not this, right? Feel free to question away. The truth can handle it. I often think I was a hockey mom for many years. My son is almost 25 now. So it's been a while since I've waited outside a cold rink, but I do wish that I had Dragonfly or knew what Reiki was at least at that time. I spent a lot of time in my car or in the rink waiting for him to be done, waiting for him to get changed, um, I would have loved to have taken that time and just sat in the car and listened, right? Like Reiki fits into wherever you have time, right? I have a lot of, I'm not the world's most patient person, and traffic drives me crazy. And I don't even deal with real traffic. I live in New Brunswick, Canada. There is one stoplight between me and my office in a 15-minute drive. So I have nothing to complain about. Um, but I don't have a lot of patience. There's a reason the universe put me where it did. But even I flip the switch of when I get stuck in traffic in the morning, right? It's just like, okay, the universe is giving me some downtime before I start my day to do some Reiki, right? Is it deep? No, but does it still help? It does. It shifts my perspective from annoyance to gratitude. So, yeah, go ahead, Norma.
Absolutely.
I had a Reiki share in between Kim's and Margaret Mary's here with the group that I'm part of in Cleveland. And there's like 65 of us that
Wow.
practitioners that share Reiki uh, for people on a daily basis. And I wanted to do Andrea Kennedy's 7 chakra balancing recordings. And I thought, oh, okay. So we're sent the list of people who have no intention, and then we have the list of people who have special intentions. And so then I added, and everyone will receive all the energies from Andrea Kennedy's 7 chakra balancing, which is an hour and 6 minutes. And I was gone. I was listening, but the rest have received also. And some nights I'll go to bed and it's like, I didn't do myself Reiki today. Okay, I call that in for my husband and I don't even have it playing.
Yeah.
And immediately I go to sleep and he stays in bed and he'll be there in the morning. Normally he gets up and goes to the den and sleeps in his recliner chair. So the intention is so powerful.
The intention is, and really Reiki isn't about belief, it's about consent, which is what the intention is. It's literally just inviting this energy in to work with you. So it doesn't have to be complicated. I always say that the ceremony of it all is for human experience, for our parasympathetic nervous system to know what to expect. It's not necessary for the energy. So, okay, Margaret Mary, should we get on to some of the bigger questions about what is medical Reiki and
Sure.
how is it and what is like so what is it? What is it and how is it different than the regular Reiki? I'm a Holy Fire Karuna Reiki practitioner. You are a medical Holy Fire Karuna Reiki practitioner, among other things. I will say, too, I popped in Margaret Mary's link to Dragonfly, her profile in the chat. Margaret Mary has more training than just about any practitioner I've ever met, so I would encourage you to go and look at everything she has so you can understand the depths of knowledge that she brings to this community and just how fortunate we are to have her in this community. And she is so generous with her knowledge and healing in time. So yeah, take it away, Margaret Mary. Tell us about medical Reiki and how it's different.
It's much more advanced, and I never saw myself going this direction. Um, it happened when I went to Japan for 3 months for some advanced training on Mount Karama and had a very profound, I had a lot of profound experiences when I was in Japan. And I didn't understand them and I was very grateful. But I was working on a classmate and I had an experience, and one of the master teachers was working on the same person. I was holding their feet, and they all of a sudden, and they were really concentrating, the individual, and their heads snapped up and they turned and looked at me, and I was very much aware. And later that evening, we had a talk about it because we were both present to something. And that's when she said, I think you're a really good fit for medical Reiki. And I was like, never heard of it, don't know anything about it. And so I started doing research and discovered, yeah, there is such a thing as medical Reiki, and then asked for guidance on who to study with because, I was on Mount Karama and was very overwhelmed. And disease, when you break the word down, and this is why words matter and relates back to the conversation that we had, Amanda and I had at the New Year. When you break disease down, it is dis-ease. Your body is demonstrating that it is not at ease. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I have been a healthcare professional. I've worked in the medical field numerous times over my lifetime. And it can be, the disease is a result of, it manifests physically, what is going on mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I have a really good understanding of anatomy and physiology, and I don't profess to know everything. So I have access to medical libraries that help me. And with all that said, there are symbols and frequencies that go with medical Reiki. And the person that I studied under, Raven Keys, transitioned unexpectedly, almost immediately. And, I was left in this gap of, okay, who do I talk to? How do I get help? And thankfully, she very wisely wrote several books, which I read, and there's other literature out there. And I love to read. I didn't grow up with television, so I really enjoy books. And I've been reading everything I could get my hands on. One of my gifts is I can look at someone and I can see their auras and where the disease is occurring. And because I'm curious, I ask for discernment. If it's a disease line that I already know, do I say something? Sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no. It's just Reiki teaching me. So I follow the discernment. And I'll speak when asked, and then I'll just hold it otherwise. But medical Reiki gives us access to ourselves. And when we're really sick, and I'm chronic or complex, and I'm talking about like cancer, cardiac, neurologically, what tools do we have along with medicine that can restore the balance and the harmony within the body. And Raven Keyes originally got into medical Reiki because there was a big bloom of breast cancer. And one of her dear friends needed breast cancer surgery. And she had already been going to Raven for a really long time. And she didn't want to go into the OR without her. She knew on that day that she was going to need support. And Raven had already received a hit that she was to have her credentials ready. So she handed the credentials to her friend, and her friend went in and had a talk with the surgeon. And Raven has worked with some pretty big names, and the one that most of you may recognize is Mehmet Oz, Dr. Mehmet Oz. And they all recognized the shift. And then she started being invited into the operating room for other surgeries by additional surgeons. And why she was guided to do this is when you're under general anesthesia, where do you go? Where does the soul go? Where does your spirit go? And there are a lot of things that happen in hospitals. There's a lot of energies that occur. And, you know, what you get back is not always what went into before the general anesthesia. And I really sat with that as I listened to her and I read her books, and it was like, where does the spirit, where does the soul, where does that person go when under general anesthesia? And because of the access to the medical libraries, I was able to read a lot of very interesting research about what general anesthesia provides, but then the short-term and long-term effects. And while that is what Raven started, was primarily supporting people while they're under anesthesia, in the last 3 years, because I was in Japan in 2023, in the last 3 years, my medical Reiki practice has expanded. Thank goodness. I know not everybody feels this way, and I acknowledge that and I accept it. Thank goodness for COVID, because we have distance Reiki. And while I do see people in person and I do travel for my clients, I can sit on Zoom with them, and we have the distance symbols and the master symbols that allow us to not be there, but support people who are going through radiation on a daily basis, chemotherapy on a daily or weekly basis, whatever it is, wherever it is, we can support them. And, you know, my practice, I got to work on another Reiki master, several Reiki masters who were very generous and gave me feedback on their medical Reiki experience for their surgeries. And I realized we need pre-op and we need post-op to help deal with the short-term and long-term effects of the general anesthesia. But then, as Amanda very generously shared, how she Reiki'd her medicine, and that made a difference. So supporting people in all those different ways. So there are different frequencies, and there are a lot of different frequencies that you get to access through medical Reiki that allows you to hone in on the dis-ease. So where I am now, my client has colon cancer and liver cancer. And, they work together, and he has a liver oncologist and he has a colon oncologist, and they have different points of view. But I understand how the colon and the liver work together, and spiritually what they represent and how they process things. Um, the environment, what we take in, and how it all connects and relates. So for
And
those
Margaret,
that really want to go further than just surface, that's what Medical Reiki provides.
and what would you you have different packages, and I can pop those in the chat. But what do you suggest for somebody who maybe if them or their family member, if they're having open heart surgery, if they're going through cancer treatment, what would you suggest they do? Like if they're going to access your services, what does that actually look like?
For Medical Reiki, there's always a consult. It's an hour long because I don't take all cases. Um, in that process, we talk about what is going on, what they're comfortable with. Because I have had clients who the efficacy wasn't there because they were only doing it because a family member wanted them to.
Yeah.
They didn't have buy-in. And, for me, as the practitioner, it's kind of like beating my head against a brick wall. It feels really good when I stop. And it doesn't work for me to want it more for them than they want it for themselves. So it always starts with, well, I have people that kind of slide in, oh, I just want Reiki. And then it turns into Medical Reiki. And there are cases where Medical Reiki turns into end of life Reiki. It's just a fact. Nobody gets out alive. I have participated in that, and I am so grateful that we have these options to support the individual and the professionals and the family members for end of life. But bottom line, in the event you have received a diagnosis, it starts with a consult. Depending on what is going on, it can be a one and done. Say for a hangnail. Even a hangnail has spiritual meaning. But, I've been working with this client for over 18 months and supporting them. And I did it at a distance. And when it came time for the surgery, I traveled here to New Zealand to be here in person. It became very complex and very complicated. And that support makes a really, really big difference. But if you have, say you're having chemotherapy, you're for economic reasons, because medical expenses are real and they can be really expensive. It's better to do the packages because there are financial savings there for you, and that's why it's provided, and
Well, and
it's
there,
very, very practical.
yeah, and there's the packages, which are the one-on-one specialized care that are offered together, and then there's also Margaret Mary so generously has set aside 2 hours every Wednesday to do the medical Reiki in the community circles. So that's a $20 event. Or if you have a membership, it's included, can be included in your membership. So she has made it very, she has opened this service, which is very specialized and very high value. She has made it attainable for everybody. She's
And
also,
if I may, Amanda,
please, please.
it's Wednesday in New Zealand, which is 16 hours ahead of the East Coast. So
Yeah.
it's roughly about noon on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Um, when that is being provided. Okay.
Yes,
So
for
I don't
me,
want you
it's
to go.
yes, that's right. Sorry. So for over on this side of the world, it's Tuesday noon in the Eastern Standard Time Zone and 1 o'clock where I am on the in the Atlantic Time Zone. So um, literally, you can do it on your lunch. It's and there's the link for it. So it is. She has made it very accessible. She's also been the most single significant contributor to the Dragonfly paid membership library. I joke that if it was a building, we'd have to name it after her because so much of it is from her. So those are also really great services to access. The other thing I wanted to pick up on, Margaret Mary, I guess just make a comment, is anytime that the sovereignty of the body is disrupted, right? So whether it's, I had a mastectomy, I had a part cut off of me. I have a really bad joke about how this life was worth my left tit, which is what I paid for this life. um, so when any time though that you're whether it's you're put under or you're having open heart surgery or you're leaving behind a body part, there is an energetic reaction to that I think science just hasn't caught up to yet. And I think my children and grandchildren will look back and say, like, of course, what we're saying right now, what we energetically know will be confirmed in the coming years. I'm certain of that. But we had another lady in our community, and she talked a lot about the depression that comes after open heart surgery, right? And it's just like your heart is exposed. And afterwards, the depression that came with it, nobody warned her, right? She was just expected to be thankful that she came through alive. And nobody prepared her. And then once she got through it, she started looking into it and seeing it was a very common experience for people with open heart surgery to feel that depression, to feel mistrust, to feel uneasy. And it's literally, they were exposed, right? And so medical Reiki, is doing what science hasn't caught up with yet, but that doesn't mean the science won't. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that there has been, and I've got to find I had it at one point, I have to find the link again, but there wasn't a large Reiki study done by insurance companies in the U.S. and they were tracking the whether or not Reiki assisted in their bottom line, right? And what they found, and I'm paraphrasing, but after surgery, if Reiki was done before and after, it dropped the days that people were hospitalized after by more than half. Like very, very dramatic. And enough that that particular insurance company actually didn't just start covering Reiki sessions, they actually started giving discounts for people who did Reiki because there was enough benefit in it to their bottom line. So yeah, really powerful stuff that way. Margaret Mary, you have been.
Absolutely.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Absolutely. And the one thing that we've all heard about is phantom pain for amputees.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very real. And the medical Reiki, because that's happening on a neurological level, that's the crown energy center. That's where Reiki can help because your pain receptors in your brain are still very much activated. And, the pre-op, the op, and the post-op, which happens over 3 days. Pre-op is the day before, op is the day of the op, post-op is the day after. Because, if you stop the Reiki at like 5 o'clock on the day of the operation, guess what? They're not sleeping that night and they are at the full effect. So, post-op always happens about 9 o'clock the next day so that they can process through it. And by nighttime, they're ready to go to sleep on their own with a minimal amount of, um, script medicinal support. But yeah, we're all already very much aware that there is energy there.
Yeah. Yeah, I after my mastectomy, I remember my plastic surgeon, who was just hilarious. Um, he kind of said very casually, like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna have stabbing pains that come and go for 5 years probably." It's like, what? He's like, "Yeah, it's just every once in a while you're just gonna feel like someone's stabbing you. Um, it's just nerve pain, you know." And he told me it would take about 6 months for it to start. And sure enough, I was just out living my life one day, and all of a sudden it felt like somebody was stabbing me repeatedly. And I remember like bending over, and everyone, comes running, and it's like, no, 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 it's just like it's phantom pain, like I had a mastectomy. Um, but Reiki took that away. When you were saying that, I just realized that, yeah, I remember doing the Reiki on it, talking to my central nervous system, explaining, explaining what had happened, asking the Reiki, and I didn't have to
Well,
after
that's
that.
that's neuropathy, and your nerves regrow. They'll regenerate at about an inch a year. So the 6 years, I mean, 6 months, it can take that long for the anesthesia to go, oh, huh, okay. And the nerves to finally go, all right, we're done with this. All the gas is out, and then the regrowth. And it is a very real stabbing pain. You never know when it's going to happen because
Never know.
the nerve literally shoots. It grows an inch and then it stops. And then it'll shoot another inch somewhere else, but in that area. And when you have multiple surgeries, after a while, the nerves stop growing. And it's like, okay, we got the message. We're not going to grow anymore. And you could be in church, you could be at a meeting, you could be walking down the street, and that pain, that stabbing pain is very, very real and remarkably painful.
Yeah. We have a question from Lucy, which is perfect. It kind of goes into the next question. She said, "What's the training needed to become a medical Reiki practitioner?" Um, and then we have a question from Katie, but we'll start first with, um, and I was actually going to say, you haven't just been leading the medical Reiki in our community. You do have plans. You have been guided as to what this is supposed to look like in our community. So do you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. Um, I have received guidance to teach a medical Reiki master course, and it's going to be very, very comprehensive. And there are people that have no intentions of being a medical Reiki master in the capacity that I am. So I will be teaching Medical Reiki 1, where you receive the energy and just the energy. And then Medical Reiki 2, where you receive the Medical Reiki symbols. And then the Medical Reiki Master Course is a 4-year comprehensive program where you will receive the ability and the support to transfer the energy, because that's what all Reiki courses are: 1, 2, and 3, or 3 is also known as a master course. And always in the first course, you're receiving the energy. You're receiving the ability to channel that energy. The second course is always where you receive the symbols and your ability to utilize the symbols. And the third course is where you have the ability, should you choose, to be a teacher and to pass it on. And 1 and 2, I've got several moving parts with my client, but next week I should know. I've been guided to teach 1 and 2 in May, June, July, and August, but I don't have the dates yet. And that's for people that, those are really good courses for caregivers who deal with a lot of stress. And, you know, there are times when you're working with like parents who have very sick children, or, you know, adult children who have aging parents, whatever it is. Sometimes there's nothing else to do except healing touch and just give them Reiki. That's for people, 1 and 2 are for people that don't want to have a medical Reiki practice, do not want to be a professional. So that is what is going to be offered. And then the Medical Reiki Master is actually a 4-year course. We will meet every week for 4 hours. You will receive a session. You know, we're going to start with an invocation and then have a session in the class and then teaching. And it is very, very comprehensive. The first year is going to be a lot of learning, going through all the Reiki courses and working to activate all of your clairs and fine tune them, because you can do Biosen scanning and understand what Biosen scanning is, where you can feel the energy shift in your client's body and where you need to focus. And that's the first year. The next year is stepping up the student's frequency. And we're going to do that very comprehensively so that you can work with your patients much more. Sorry, they're not patients, they're clients. They're medical staff's patients. Fine-tuning your energy in your body. And I have some really great guest lecturers, Qigong masters, sound healers, so that you can support them. We're going to go over nutrition. Each student is their own unique frequency, and helping them. I mean, like, I did all of this flying blind and by the seat of my pants because Raven transitioned physically. And on many levels, you know, Raven is always around. Every time I see a Raven, I know a medical case is coming towards me. So I'm mindful of that. The third year is where we are going to practice on each other, because nobody gets out alive in, you know, disease. We do wake up one day and go, oh, I got this terminal diagnosis, but working backwards. Okay, where did it start? Which organ is it in? And we're going to work on each other, and we're going to focus on each student. We're only accepting 11 students. You have to fill out a paper application and submit it. And then you have to have an interview. And the fourth year is where we're really going to look at the business side of it. And you are going to receive, at that point, a client. And you're going to work on them and with them. And this 4-year course is not for everyone. You know, liver cancer and colon cancer is not glamorous. If you have a sensitive constitution and can't deal with the smells and the sights that go with medical situations, you know, people losing bodily functions, you know, this is not for you. It really just isn't. If you're not good in high stress situations, this is not for you.
And that's okay. Something else is, right? Like
exactly.
Exactly. There is a piece for you. It just may not be this.
Exactly. You know, New Zealand is very interesting. It's really far behind medically. And I overheard a doctor say that the medical system, healthcare in New Zealand is broken. And I didn't understand it until my client stood up and blood was just streaming out of him. And I rang the bell, but he's in a room with three other people, and there are 10, 20 rooms on that ward, and the staff wasn't responding. I put on a gown, gloves, and applied pressure. And I just kept pushing that button. And, you know, there was blood everywhere. And I have a strong constitution. That stuff doesn't faze me. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's okay if it does faze you. But the fourth year will be setting up your practice and literally following a case. And, this case that I'm working on, one of the clients, drains has repeatedly disconnected in the last 3 days. So I haven't slept in 72 hours because it keeps happening. We were in surgery on Thursday, and as soon as this is done, I'm going back into surgery with him. And in traditional medicine, like when you're a medical student or a resident, you're on for 72 hours. And that stamina to be able to see it through. I've been told that I'm a little unusual in this, but I'm not. I'm literally hands-on in this case, and I'm so grateful for this client and this opportunity to go this deep because I get to share all of this with the students in the Medical Reiki Master course.
Thank you for that, Margaret Mary. We just realized that the link right from Margaret Mary's profile right now is not working for her packages. So I'm just going to pop the packages in here. And I did, Kim asked if you were in the operating room, Margaret Mary.
Yes.
And I think too, I want to also point out that not only is she sending to the client or the patient, she's also sending to the medical team around them, including the cleaners, including the people that are preparing the food. She's putting Reiki in the food, including the client's support system, pets, everything around them is just being, layered in this Reiki. And I also want to point out that this isn't just a complex medical situation. This is what he is going through is cutting edge. I think he's the fourth or fifth person to have this in the whole world done. So it's really a wonderful ability for her to be there. I do want to, in the time we have left, I do want to get over to Katie's question. She said, if there's time, can she ask what about medical Reiki on mysterious illnesses where no doc has figured it out and pain meds pain meds are doing the trick? Before you start, Margaret Mary, I do just want to say this is exactly what we've been dealing with my daughter for the last year and a half. They just kept telling us that she was an anxious kid because her dad had committed suicide and her mom had terminal cancer, and they just kept telling me, well, of course she's anxious. No wonder she's anxious, And I kept saying, I know what anxiety looks like in my child. This is not that. She looked like we thought we went through MRIs and blood tests and more blood tests and scans and and we just kept being told basically that there was nothing wrong with her and that she just needed counseling. It's like she's in counseling. So I definitely know what it's like to navigate the medical system without that diagnosis. And that's kind of what I was saying at the first is I know what it's like to have cancer. Everybody rallies around. They give you answers, even if those answers aren't necessarily right. Like you're gonna die and there's nothing you can do. It wasn't the right answer, but at least it was an answer. Versus being, my daughter and I have been gaslit over and over and over again. And thank God for Reiki, because I think I probably would have burnt down a hospital by now, if I'm honest, because she has been left in just massive amounts of pain, completely dismissed. Um, she is in a flare right now. This is the first flare we have where we haven't had to go to the ER. And it's literally because she has been so sick. She's finally, she's got her mother's stubborn streak in her, and I love that for her. um, but it's taken her a long time to be kind of open to the idea of medical Reiki. She likes Reiki. She likes me sending Reiki for nightmares and stuff like that. But the medical Reiki, this is the first time that she really has let it in. And again, I'm not going to say that it was we snapped our fingers and everything was gone, but we still have tons of things to figure out. But it has brought more relief than any of the medication combinations we've had, any of the supplements, all important pieces. But the medical Reiki has absolutely been great for that. And I really feel, I complain about my daughter's path, and I have to remind myself that she chose it, just like I chose my cancer path. But I complain about how long it's taken, but when you look at the diagnoses we've gotten in the last year and a half, on average, that takes people 7 to 10 years to get those diagnoses. And Reiki, by calling in the medical Reiki, by calling in Reiki in general into this, I feel like the universe has put at least a breadcrumb trail or something for me to find, um, find the missing pieces to it that I'm just not convinced would have happened without that. Actually, I have a close friend who is a lawyer who looks very similar to me. People get us mixed up all the time. We have a habit of buying the same cars. We have the same kid. Like, our lives are very mirror. Her daughter also has complex, mysterious illnesses. And I think she said her daughter's on 18 different medications. And she's 18. And she's still dealing with flares. So I have kind of the contrast of the two, right? It's not that it's perfect, but dramatically better. So that's my answer, and I'll let Margaret Mary answer now.
I have helped people who haven't had diagnoses because I can help through Reiki pinpoint. And, one of the things that I send Reiki to for people that are in those situations is that the doctors and medical staff that they need to support them ask Reiki to bring them in, ask them to make sure they're trained and developed, and that their lives, their paths intersect, so that, I mean, because we as beings, we are becoming much more complex and complicated. And I am seeing a lot of the descendants with these diagnoses, and the parents are like, as a parent, you panic. We tell ourselves a story that we're failing our children, and it's a lot. I had some of these experiences with my own children and didn't know that I had these capabilities. So there are many different answers to that question, but Norma, is it okay to talk about you? So Norma and I have known each other for quite some time. I think probably 4, 5, maybe all 6 years. And Norma was experiencing a pain that left her unable to walk. And she loves animals, loves them, and she loves what she does. She works with the Center for Reiki Research, I believe, and gives Reiki in medical situations, in hospitals, and testing the efficacy of it. And I just felt this sadness because she wasn't able to go to the hospital and be the contribution that she came here to be. And we jumped on early one day and we were just chatting. And so, as I was trained, I did the Biosen scanning and I literally felt it in my body. And, I said, Norma, I believe you have a classic male hernia in the ileocecal. And, it, sure enough, she went and had the medical testing, and she can say the rest of it. I did the pre-op, I did the op, I did the post-op. All of that was at a distance. I offered to come in person, but her daughter supported during the op and texted me the updates. She's being taken back. The operation has started. It's complete. She's in recovery and all of that. And, Norma, at that time I was in Delaware and Norma was in Ohio. An easy day's drive to do that, and was willing and able to do it out of a great affinity for a colleague and somebody that I really care about. And, we're thousands of miles apart, but that's how real the Biosen scanning is. And that's how in depth we will go into in the training in the Medical Reiki Master course, really developing that skill, so that you can be that far away and go, you may want to see a doctor about this. And they have the technology to verify everything.
Well, and I think that's the key part.
This isn't a group of people who are saying, forget what your doctors say, throw down those pills, you don't need that test, just come listen to me, right? We want to be a part of a holistic team. Sorry, Norm, I cut you off.
Oh, no. Just so you know, I was very desperate the night she came to the share, and I leaned back and I said, you can scan me whatever you want to do. It was less than 2 minutes that she was given all that information.
Yeah.
And I called my doctor and I had a CT scan. I think it was that Friday, and it came back exactly what she said it was. And it was not a traditional hernia. It was a fatty tumor that was embedded in the fibers, and my surgeon had to really dig to get it out.
Oof.
It just felt like every right step was like a knife going in my groin area.
I am really fortunate that Margaret Mary and I meet almost every week, and she's always telling me stuff about what's going on with my body. I like to push my body to the very edge sometimes, over and over and over again. We're working on it. But Margaret Mary, I think I'll live to be 86 in no small part because of the constant work of Margaret Mary on me. So keep an eye out for her packages. For her classes. So we do have the big 4-year course that starts in September, but she is going to be doing, you don't need to make that big decision right now if you're not sure. You can start with the level 1 and the level 2. I anticipate taking them for myself and for my daughter, because there's no question, there's no question, just the power of it. And I think, every family needs a Reiki master. And if it can, the more training, the more tools that Reiki master has, the better. And so I think about, there's this a large generation of boomers in particular who have spent, their working lives, their careers are coming to an end as they retire, and they wonder what's next. And I think for the sake of their family, their country, the universe, I encourage them to really think about this path as what to do in the next chapter of their life. Because of my terminal cancer diagnosis, I get to retire early, and so this is part of what I'm thinking about. Is how do I best use this energy. So yeah, I strongly encourage you to do it. If you want more experience with the medical Reiki and to see what it's like, again, Margaret Mary has graciously is graciously hosting a medical Reiki community circle every week Tuesdays for most time zones in the West. And then she also, continue. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. So go through that. And once the dates have been chosen for her classes, we'll send those out to everybody as well. So we are a little bit over time, but that's okay. Any other questions before we sign off? Oh, Katie, can I please be sent the replay from yesterday? And if you're sharing the replay of this session, I'd love to share it with some potential clients. Please do. I will make sure that you get it as well, Katie. And in the email, I'll send. Actually, probably what I'll get Melissa to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get Melissa to add the first session when she sends out the replay of this, so that it'll be right in that. So you have both. Please feel free. I should have been saying this the whole time, so thank you for this, Katie. Please feel free to share any of this with anybody. Right? Like, we make these resources, and yeah, thank you. To be clear, potential clients for Margaret Mary. Thank you so much, Katie. But we want this stuff to be shared. This is what these celebrations are about, is letting the general public know about the resource that is Dragonfly and the various practitioners within this community. But yeah, I was expected to die very quickly, and I'm fine. Right? So I am proof of what Reiki and Margaret Mary's Medical Reiki in particular can do. So, but yes, please feel free to send anything that we send you. By all means, always feel free to forward that on. We love to see it. My favorite saying is healing is contagious. And it really, really is. I tried for many, many years in my pre-Reiki life to help everyone in my family and in my friend group. I ran around buffering everybody from their consequences. I literally worked myself to the point of cancer trying to help everyone that I loved. And nothing helped more than me focusing on my own healing, me modeling for them what that actually looked like, to challenge those assumptions I carried, to put myself first, to put in boundaries, to be my authentic self. And I have seen the healing ripple out through those relationship cords and through the people around me. So yes, thank you, Katie. Thank you all for coming today. Margaret Mary, thank you so much. Man, I hope you sleep soon. And I know
It's
you're going to
coming.
sleep soon. It's coming, yeah. And
Yeah.
and we all send you Reiki. All of us that have Reiki, please, one way you can help right from today is, if you have any level of Reiki at all, you can send it to Margaret Mary and to her client and to their team. We've been posting fairly regularly about it in our social media. Yes. Okay, my email is blowing up for the next session, so we're going to end. Thank you all so much.
We open the circle. Aho, namaste, wanishi, mahalo, and so it is. Thank
So
you.
it is. Thank you.